Welcome to another episode of KED Talks with Kendo World. I'm Alex Bennett, and today it is my great pleasure to introduce to you Elizabeth Bergen-Bartel, who is an expat American from Arlington, Virginia, I believe. And expat means that you don't live there anymore because you live in China, don't you? Chengdu?
Chengdu, Sichuan, China.
That's the one. And in Chengdu, Elizabeth, with her husband, manages a Kendo Dojo, where obviously Kendo is practiced as well as iaido. Elizabeth is currently a student also at the University of London. Not that you are in London. I'm assuming you're doing it correspondence at Birkbeck College, and you will be graduating next year, hopefully. With a BA in philosophy. Elizabeth is not only teaching Kendo in China, she also competes, and she has won several, in fact, I think 7 national championships for women's individual. 7, yeah. And also 6 women's team championships. And you've also represented China at 4 World Kendo Championships so far. And I understand that you're also trying out to be in the Chinese team for the next World Championships, wherever they're going to be held. And I really like this photo. It wasn't the first time I'd met you. I think from memory, the first time I met you was in 2010 at the Combat Games, which were held in Beijing. And then I saw you many times at World Championships and also at the Kitamoto International Seminar for Foreign Kendo Practitioners. And I really like this photograph because there's me on the left. That's not the bit that I like. It's just rather ironic that I'm standing there with my Japan Zekken on because I'm working for the All Japan Kendo Federation at this particular event. And you are standing there with your China Zekken on. So it just is a wonderful illustration of how international Kendo has become. I'd like to start off by asking you, what got you into Kendo?
I can remember back to when my dad showed me Seven Samurai. I saw Seven Samurai for the first time. Mm-hmm. And when I watched that movie, it was just like a flame kind of lit up inside.
Yeah, so I kept that flame alive inside, and I grew up and tried lots and lots of different martial arts. And unfortunately, at the time in Northern Virginia and Washington, D.C., there weren't many Kendo Dojo. But fortunately, I stumbled upon a Yellow Pages ad for U.S. Hwarangkwan, which wasn't an AOSKF affiliated dojo, but it was an amazing Korean studio where the headmaster was Master Chung, and just an amazing teacher who really inspired me so much. So yeah, I found them in 1997, and I signed up the next day right after watching one class. And I was practicing nonstop for like the first 2 years. I think I practiced almost every day. And I would get off from school and take the metro about an hour and a half to the studio and practice and go home late at night, hopefully finishing my homework. Yeah, it was really wonderful. But unfortunately, there was quite a language barrier because I could not speak Korean and their English was limited. So I just really enjoyed the workout and the movement and the molding the mind and body together and learning some of the basic principles. But after a while, I met my husband at the studio, and we found out we were at university in the same city in Harrisonburg, Virginia. I was at JMU and he went to EMU. And so we would practice together often in the EMU gym and got very close through our practice. However, he was about to move back after graduating and start his own studio. And when he told me, I was so excited, and I decided to give up my biology degree and move with him and start this studio together. mainly because Kendo had really shaped my life and had routed and shaped my life, and I had experienced so many personal benefits from practicing. And I wanted to spread these benefits to as many people as possible.
I'm sure there's lots of people out there that have been inspired to do some Japanese martial art because of that particular, that not only that movie, but similar movies. Where was that?
This was, let's see, 2003, 2004, we moved to China. And then officially 2005, we opened the dojo here.
So you've been there over 15 years.
Mm.
I mean, as an expat myself living in Japan, I know that moving to a country there where the language is different, the customs are different, the food is different, values are, very different. I'm sure that you had many things that you had to overcome in your journey when you got there. Culture shock must have been quite a feature in your life when you first moved to China. What sort of things did you encounter that really sort of blew you away or surprised you?
Gosh, it's hard to
start, huh?
I'm trying to remember, because since I've gotten here, it's so radically, it's like completely different. When we got here in 2004, it was basically like a sleepy little town where the only thing people did every day was drink tea and play mahjong. And I mean, it was a big city then, but now like the expansion has been incredible. Just all of the construction and all of the population has just boomed. So back then it was surprising to me, who's coming from Northern Virginia, like the pace was very slow. Like the timing, and you would tell someone to show up at a certain time, but maybe they wouldn't show up for another hour or so. It was very relaxed, and you could feel like the old culture of China at that time. And since then, it's changed a lot. It's been globalized. I mean, you can see the effects of globalization since then. So I guess the pace of life, the attitude, was very relaxed. And also at that time, there weren't many foreigners. There were, very, very few foreigners. So people would come up to me and try to touch my hair and like, oh my God, just like you saw a panda walking around in the street or something, like, oh my God, it's a foreigner. And, so they have to touch your hair.
Yeah, a lot of my foreigner friends reported people would drive by in cars and just scream hello out the window because it's the only English word they know.
But people are very kind, and it was all positive. There was nothing negative. It was a little uncomfortable for people to try to touch my hair, but anyways, it was fun. So it's changed quite a bit, and now there are so many foreigners here. Mm-hmm. Of course, that's a little bit different since the pandemic. A lot of people have gone home, but that was the thing that kind of put me back. Like I wasn't used to the distance between people and myself.
I was not used to the attention that suddenly is poured on you. I understand that from my days at Japanese high school. At first, you sort of feel a little bit like a celebrity, but it sort of wears thin after a while. You just want to be left alone and go about your business. What about the language? That must have been a real challenge for you.
Oh, it still is. It still is. It was fun. I became pregnant with my first son, and we gave birth to him in 2005. Right, Max? 2006? Oh my God, I'm sorry. My timing's bad. 2005. So at that time, I was quite unused to using the language, and it was hard communicating the cultural differences and raising children. Mm-hmm. But also having a child and being able to go out with the child gave me a really good opportunity to to use Chinese to communicate. So I didn't have time to officially study Chinese, which was really something I regret, because all I do was like self-study at home, and normally by myself because my husband is so busy. But just being able to go out and try to practice Chinese with people on the street. There are so many people that are interested in talking. So, and they have plenty of time. Like I said, very relaxed here. So I could learn so much Chinese just from interacting with people, trying to buy vegetables or going to the park. People will just, chat you up, even if you can't say anything back. So it was great. But yeah, Chinese is really, really difficult. And I've learned a lot of things the hard way, like saying things wrong the hard way. So it's great, but people will give you good feedback if you start speaking funny. So I learned that.
Living in Japan, I think it's a similar kind of journey, actually. Myself and Brian included, and Yulin, we've all had to learn the hard way as well. Chucked in the end. But well, you said just before that you started up a Kendo Dojo in 2005 with your husband. I imagine that would have been fraught with difficulties as well. My feeling is that China has a lot of rules and regulations related to starting up sports clubs and
well, not just that. There's also a lot of cultural baggage. Now I'm of Chinese ethnicity, and I remember the first time my mother, who grew up in mainland China, saw me practicing iaido. She was horrified. She's like,
"What? You were that bad?"
Well, I was very bad. But her comment was like, that's the thing that they use to execute civilians during the war, right? Like, how can you be like that? That thing is like horrible. Right, that was her first gut reaction. I imagine there must be all sorts of fraught cultural baggage that you've had to deal with.
Yes, that's completely true. There's a lot of dark history that a lot of people don't know about, and it's something that everyone should really know and educate themselves on if they can. So it was difficult. The first 5 years. If we didn't own the dojo space, we would have closed because we got so few students. It was a real struggle. Most days, it was just me and my husband practicing, and then like a couple people maybe join on. But at that time, we were really hardcore. So like no one wanted to practice after the first practice. But we learned a lot, like how to promote kendo and in China in a Chinese way. And why it's important, because there are a lot of other benefits. I mean, even with the history and everything, there are a lot of great things that people can learn from doing kendo, and the philosophy behind it it's so important. And actually, there's a lot. I mean, sword ideology originates in China, so that's what I like to emphasize to my students. I mean, Hakama have evolved over history, but it's Tang Dynasty clothing. I mean, so I like to emphasize that Kendo is not just, it's Japanese, of course, but it has an origin in China. So I like to really teach my students that as well, and emphasize that they can learn a lot from practicing Kendo and understand Japanese culture, which will help with future international relations. I mean, if they're in that sector, of course, but just understanding people compassionately, even with such a hard history, is really important. And I try to teach that.
Well, I'm sure that most people, when you first started the dojo, didn't know what Kendo was. So how did you go about promoting it to the public?
Yeah, we didn't do much. That was the problem. When we first started, we really didn't do much. So that was one of the issues. Just raising awareness about Kendo is really hard. But like over the years, more and more people would watch foreign movies, foreign anime, even TV shows. Like Taiwanese TV shows have Kendo, and then there have even been like domestic TV shows that have like bits and pieces of Kendo inside. So people slowly became more and more aware of Kendo, and that's when they started coming, and that's when we started having more and more students. But yeah, we didn't really do much marketing, advertising, or anything. We just it was just word of mouth. So I think that's one of the reasons we really struggled to get our dojo population up. But yeah, it's been better over the years. And
how many students do you have now?
Oh, we have a lot of people that have signed up, but regular practicing, probably only like 100.
100?
Maybe
100.
more, maybe more. We use like a card system. Those students have their own card, and they'll like their little is where you write in the date, and we have to stamp it. So they know, so we have tons of cards, but sometimes the students aren't here, or, sometimes they haven't practiced for over a year, or they'll sign up and they don't actually show up to practice. So it's a little frustrating. But I just let people come at their own pace. So it's okay.
Well, I mean, even in Japan, a dojo with 100 people would be considered quite a significant entity. So, I mean, it's pretty amazing. What sort of people want to do kendo?
Well, people come. We have tons of ranked practitioners, but they don't practice. Typically, nowadays, all our students are adults, either young adults or adults. So, we have some. It's hard because, of course, it's hard to recruit teens and university students because the academics are so emphasized here. That's all the parents care about. So we do get some teens and some university students, but mostly it's after people have graduated and they have a stable job. They have a stable job, and that's when they have time to actually do martial arts. So typically young adults, and maybe a couple of older adults, but yeah, mostly young adults.
Are these people who have some sort of work relationship with Japan, or is it an attraction to Japanese? For a lot of Westerners practicing, it's often an attraction to Japanese culture that often brings them into kendo. Is that what you also find in Chengdu?
So far, yeah. Most people have seen anime or movies, and they're really excited to find out more about Japanese culture and Japanese martial arts. But they're not necessarily working in the foreign sector. We've had a couple students that, they speak Japanese, and they work in a Japanese company, or they have had past experiences in Japanese companies. So, but typically it's just people that are really curious about Japanese culture and excited to learn and do something physical while learning about Japanese culture. Yeah.
Are they sort of generally? I mean, obviously it's going to be very different, but considering the really incredible showing that China had at the last World Championships in Tokyo, there's obviously a very vibrant competitive scene in China. So do a lot of your students really get into the shii side of it, or are they more into it for the cultural, perhaps philosophical aspects, or things that they can perhaps find are useful in their daily life? What's the sort of balance there?
We have a mixture in our dojo. So our dojo really emphasizes a lot of kihon based, and that's what. But that kind of allows. We do have other hardcore training, which is more for the people that are that kind of thing. So we kind of keep a balance between the two and give a path for both types of practitioners. So, for example, the way our class has changed over the years. We have a beginner section where all of the newbies are there, and they have to learn. We have a very clear system of how you advance through footwork, suburi, wearing bogu, the basics with bogu, and doing very specific exercises to improve coordination, the tenuchi, and all of these kind of things. And then we have an advanced class in the later evening and early afternoon on weekends, and late evening on the weekdays. That is just like mainly Kihon focused. We have the schedule is on the weekdays. We have like just mainly Kihon, maybe a little bit of Jikeiko and Kakari Keiko at the end of the class. But yeah, so am I answering the question? I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So really, you're sort of catering for all of it. I imagine you have quite a wide range of or age groups, and perhaps what's the gender balance like?
Oh, it's pretty balanced. Quite a few female students, and male students as well. So it's very balanced overall.
Mm-hmm. A lot of kids.
Curious.
A lot of kids as well.
Kids, we have a separate kid class, kids and adults together. So if you want to join the typical weekday class, you have to be at least 13.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So, but we do weekend class because most of the time, like I said, the academic thing, so a lot of parents, they don't have time on the weekdays to bring their kids to the dojo. So we have a special weekend class just for the children. Yeah.
It sounds like you're in the dojo at the moment, actually.
I am.
Right?
Loud.
No, it's energetic. Can you give us a little show round? Can you move this? Is that a computer or your phone?
It's my phone, so I can move. I am mobile. Okay, so here's the entrance. Tell me if I'm going too fast. See people.
Well, I can smell those hakama and dorgi from here.
It's a good smell. It's a good smell.
I like it too. We're sick, aren't we? We kendoka.
Very.
All right. Here's the main entrance area. Here are the lockers and Okay. We're still kind of constructing some t-shirts. Hey, 你好. Hello. 大家好. At karate dojo. Hello. Hey. Kendo dojo. Alex, come over. 来，过来。说你好, come over. This is my son, Alex.
Oh. Hello. Hey, nice name. How are you, Alex?
I'm fine.
Hey,
I'm great.
Mama. 过来. Come over. Say hello. Alex Sensei here.
Hi, am I a sensei?
You're not a sensei.
I'm not.
Anyways, so it's a little view. We have I can't go. Hold on.
Both of those guys are your sons, are they?
Yeah, they're my sons. My Alex. So you can see here. Sorry, I'm giving them a tour.
It's a very big dojo, isn't it? It's very spacious.
I'm curious about the language that you use in the dojo. I'm sure it's mostly Chinese, but for the kendo terminology, do you guys tend to use the Chinese pronunciation of the characters, or do you use the Japanese?
I use both. So that they get used to both. Because if we have visiting sensei, they must get some kind of concept what the Japanese sensei is trying to teach, or the foreign sensei for that matter. So yeah, we use a combination. But normally when I'm teaching, I actually don't speak Putonghua. It's very embarrassing. Because like I said, I learned through speaking with people on the street. I speak Sichuanhua. So people make fun of me about it all the time. But yeah, so we use both terminology, and sometimes I'll even use English to teach because people want to practice their English when they come to the dojo. Like, oh, I can study English while I'm studying kendo, and then they're like, oh, yes. So yeah, I definitely help, and I love to encourage my students to use all language so they get a grip on how to communicate with people from around the world.
Do you find it's different teaching people who understand kanji already?
Oh, that's hard. I don't have much experience teaching people in the States, but I think it's an advantage for them because they can understand the origin of the words of what we are teaching. So they can understand, if they can understand, like, for example, the ken, what the ken means, and Dao, they can understand like how these words were first, how these characters were formed. Then it's like, it's very interesting for them. They can understand so much more depth than someone like me who has so little ability to understand kanji. So I'm sure it's a major benefit for them, but I would say for foreign speakers, no, it's difficult. Yeah.
So I was going to ask you, who's been the biggest influence on your kendo? Because I know that you come to Japan. Well, pre-COVID, you were able to come to Japan every now and again. But what about in China? Is there quite a healthy group of really highly trained senseis over there that you can learn off and feed off, or how does it work?
Most influential person is definitely my husband. Yeah. I don't want to brag here, so let me be quiet.
Brag. Go ahead, brag.
He has a really good understanding of. Okay, my husband is a 6th dan in karate, 5th dan in kendo, 4th dan in jodo, and 4th dan in iaido, and he also practices many other martial arts. So he's like, to me, in my opinion, he is a martial arts genius. He can understand how to do movement just by watching people practice. So, like, for example, he's helped me so much with my footwork and tenuichi, because I tend to be really using my power too much, but actually he can understand the very detailed concepts of tenuichi, how to use tenuichi differently in different situations, and of course doing different waza. So I would definitely say my husband has been extremely influential. Even though our ranks are pretty much the same other than karate, I know that he is a lot better than me, and I just listen to him. So I treat him as a sensei.
Other than my husband, there are a couple of Japanese sensei that have had tremendous impacts on my kendo. Number one would be Nakamura sensei, who often would take business trips to Chengdu. He was working for Canon at the time, and he really taught me, he would inspire me and our students, and taught me how to develop compassion through kendo. Also, Tokura sensei, who is based in Beijing, working for Sony, he really inspired me through his amazing, beautiful, powerful kendo. And also Miyake sensei and Hasebe sensei, they all inspired me very much. But nationwide, there are many sensei, especially Morita sensei, Omoto sensei, Takada sensei. They have all been instrumental in guiding kendo in China and making sure that we stay on the right path for authentic kendo to grow here. Also, of course, like I said, our national team coach, Hasebe sensei, and also Furue sensei, who have both really dedicated, committed so much time and effort and blood, sweat, and tears to developing our kendo. And we'll be forever grateful for their strong spirit and dedication.
But locally, we haven't had many sensei, actually. So most of our exposure to Japanese sensei or Korean teachers has been through travel or during competitions or budo keiko or whatnot. So, yeah, Sichuan is pretty central. So we don't have many foreign companies that Sensei would be moving to Chengdu for. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
I hope I'm coherent here.
Most of the Dalian is the sort of Japanese center, if you will, in China.
Dalian, but we also have many sensei in Beijing and Shanghai. Some in Shenzhen now. More going to Shenzhen and Guangzhou. Yeah. But yeah, we don't get. Unfortunately, we either invite these sensei to Chengdu or meet them in competitions or Gudo Keiko. Otherwise, yeah.
Don't want to take up too much of your time, Elizabeth, but quite curious. It's almost been, exactly a year since the world has been plunged into this terrible pandemic that we still are trying to doggy paddle our way out of. You being an American living in China, where obviously the first cases, or at least publicized cases, where they came out of China. How did you manage the situation? Because you would have family back in the United States, and your freedom would have been severely limited, like it is for all of us. So how did you manage that situation, navigate that situation? How did it affect Kendo in China?
You're talking about COVID, right?
Yeah.
I'm just like any other person. There's no difference between me and a Chinese person. The government's done a tremendously awesome job in controlling the outbreak. I was really. I'll tell you a little story. Hopefully it doesn't take too much time. But our flight back was insane. We actually almost got stuck in the States for this whole year, unfortunately. So my kids and I, we were in the States for Christmas, and we're supposed to come back in January, but we ended up staying because of the outbreak. We ended up staying in the States until March, and we got the ticket to come back quite early after my husband said, "Oh, come back at this time." But anyways, so we were flying out of the States, and while we were flying, they were like, "Oh, we're closing the border. No foreigners are allowed to enter until we say it's okay." So we landed right the day before they closed the border. We just made it, and we went through quarantine in Shenyang, yes. And after that, we were also quarantined in Chengdu. But the government has the back tracing and the tracking using, mobile phones, and people are very compliant. So it saves a lot of trouble. And the thing about it, the way I see it as a foreigner, is just the understanding of people is incredible. They can see that how their own actions would affect the rest of the country, how their actions affect other people. And just, you can see maybe it's not always the case, but complying with this is just like an act of compassion, because you're taking care of your family and your friends' families by trying to keep everyone safe. So, I think it's amazing what China has done, and that also the people, it shows, Anyways, obviously I'm a little biased, but...
Well, I noticed that China had their national championships the other day, so Kendo is pretty much back to normal for everybody, as I imagine other sports are. Is that correct?
Overall, unless there's local outbreaks, they'll shut down the city and people will be tested. We had a small issue. I think there was somehow an elderly couple got infected, I think through some kind of packaging. I'm not sure, but their granddaughter came to visit them, and then she went clubbing, so she spread COVID. Yeah, but then immediately after they had discovered this, they did all the back tracing to see where she had been and who had been in close and in the vicinity. And then they did testing on everyone. So they were, this is the concept of zanshin. You find out who has it, then make sure they don't infect other people. This is just the only way you can really do it. But yeah, we did have our national championship, and there were restrictions, and there's a lot of stuff that they had to do to make sure that it could run. But it was successful, and there were quite a few people, even though not as many as normal, but it was still quite a big championship. Yeah, it was great.
So it's a nice segue, and I won't keep you too much longer, but you said that you applied a fundamental kendo concept of zanshin to how a crisis or how a difficult situation can be managed. Do you find kendo helps you in other aspects of your life, directly or indirectly?
Oh, yeah, for sure. All the time.
What kind of things really sort of stick out for you as something clearly that has influenced your character through your training over these many years?
It's hard to pick. There are so many awesome concepts. I would say, for me, the greatest concept has been Matsuda Saizen's kokoro no riken. It's just like how to describe in a simple way. It's not practicing sword arts to defeat other people, but it's not only this, but it's also to defeat and clear your inner heart, to refine your character to the extent of being like totally clear. I don't know. I think the concept's quite more nuanced and deeper than that, but that's my understanding and of that in a simplified way, of course. That has really affected my life. I try to I don't think of anyone else as an enemy or a competitor or whatever you want to say, an opponent. But I think of myself as my greatest opponent. I try to overcome myself every practice, every day, overcome whatever weakness I'm working on. For example, this afternoon we had a 3-hour practice, and I was trying to fix my tenuchi so that it's even better and simplify my movements. So every day, in the practical sense, it's applicable to how we can fix our waza, all our basics or whatever. But also, you can apply it to your mind on how can you clarify your thinking? How can you be more compassionate? How can you be more yourself? Greatest essence is, rather than just letting it go and doing whatever, if that makes sense, hopefully.
Absolutely. So this is something that you sort of feel over the years. So I wonder, obviously you've had a lot of success in the competitive arena. Where to from now? Where do you see yourself going in the next 5 to 10 years?
Oh, that's really hard. Yeah. Well, obviously, I want to continue that path of refinement. I don't think I like to think of my practice since I started kendo as like iron salt turning into steel and slowly turning into a sword. So I would like to continue to refine myself to the point where I can encourage and inspire other people, and that's my main inspiration and intent, is to inspire people to do authentic kendo and keep the spirit of kendo and the culture and the philosophy alive in their everyday practice. So that's really my intent. I hope I can succeed in doing that, and we'll see what kind of opportunities I have in the future. We'll see.
It sounds like you already are succeeding in doing that. If you've got a mere 100 people in your dojo, That's pretty
So,
remarkable.
it's there's a lot of people I think who would be very envious of how much you guys have managed to accomplish. Now, there's a lot of people out there who are struggling to try to build up kendo. I think in similar situations like when you and your husband first started out, right? Not anybody else around, just starting out, no high-ranking sensei around. What advice do you have for people like that trying to build up their own club?
It's very, very hard. What helped us, I can say what helped our dojo to be more successful. I don't think we're the most successful dojo in China, but what has helped us is really have a clear system of teaching. So like I said earlier, we have a student booklet with everything you will learn, basically, not with complete details or explanations, but just basically an outline of how you can advance. So people have an idea of where they are, first of all, and where they can go. But it's important, first of all, to understand the students' values, what's meaningful to those students, and how can you communicate to them in a way that they can understand the basics, and how can they advance through these basics. So, but I think what has helped us succeed was really the system we used, because they know that they have to study footwork until it's perfect. They can't move on until they get all of the footwork. Then they get to hold the shinai and try the footwork. And just like a continuation of this progression gives them a sense of purpose and meaning, and it gives them something to work on, to continually inspire them to advance and practice. And I think that's helped a lot of our students just like, oh, well, I've learned this today, I can learn something new next time I come to the dojo. So that works. And then, you have the students that get from their first class where they really struggled to yondan. We've had these types of students that they just don't give up because they're inspired on overcoming themselves. So if that makes sense.
Yeah. You said you hadn't taught in the States, but I mean, being an American by birth, do you think the approach that you took with the dojo in Chengdu would the same sort of approach would work, for example, in the States? Or would you, I mean, if you were to suddenly have to teach kendo to Americans, would you teach in the same way? Is there something in the Chinese that make them quite sort of, that kind of teaching method works? What do you think the idiosyncrasies are?
Like I said, it really matters, first of all, to understand the student themselves. Because when I teach, I adapt the way I teach to each individual student. So, for example, if someone is really tough, they can take feedback in a direct way. You can be very straightforward. You're doing this wrong. You're doing that wrong. You do everything wrong. No, you're doing this right. Yeah. But other people, you can't like that. You have to be gentle, and you have to be compassionate and adjust the way you teach to them. But overall, our system is really, I mean, I'm bragging again. Shoot, I'm sorry. Our system is really effective for teaching adults because, I mean, in Japan, they have children, right? And normally people do kendo from a young age. But in other countries, unfortunately, most people start when they're adults. So they already are fully physically grown, excuse me. And they have a life and everything. So it's hard to promote it as like a lifestyle for them in the same way. So the way the system works, I think it's applicable, but at the same time, it's important who the teacher is. The teacher must be able to adjust in a way to accommodate each individual, if that makes sense.
Yep, excellent. Okay, well, thank you very much, Elizabeth. Christmas, are you doing Christmas over there?
Well, the dojo all day tomorrow almost. So
really?
Yeah, actually, I normally have an afternoon section with one of my students, and normally one of my sons or my husband will all do like a 3-hour practice, and then the evenings we have about another 3 hours, depending, sometimes longer. We'll have like the beginner section and the advanced section, and tomorrow is just another day. It's not like Christmas. But I'm sure we'll be enjoying it because it's fun. It's fun to get those ippons for Christmas, eh?
Yeah. Christmas.
New Year, we have a very special practice. The day normally, our tradition is to do 2,000 suburi, and of course the number of the years of this year it'll be 2021 haya suburi. And we used to do it like as it was almost midnight and to 1 a.m. Typically 40 minutes, doesn't take that long. But but this year we're just going to do it on the 31st. So we'll see.
Well, don't work too hard. You sound like you spend a lot of time in the dojo, like 6 or 7 hours a day.
Depends. Not every day. Not every day.
Thank goodness for that. You're putting us all to shame.
I'm green with envy right now. That's what I am.
I'm very lazy. Don't worry, I'm lazy.
Well, where does that put us?
No, you're definitely. Yeah. Oh no, I'm sorry. I say the wrong thing.
No. Thanks for making the time, Elizabeth. I realised the day wasn't exactly too convenient for you, and we had to take you away from your duties. And really appreciate it. It was really great to talk to you, and look forward to keeping in touch. And hopefully, might see you back in Japan again before too long, if everything goes well, huh?
Thank you so much for having me on, and I'm really grateful. It's a real blessing to be able to talk to you guys and encourage people as much as possible. I hope.
If you knew us better, you probably wouldn't say that, but never mind.
Oh.
We're a bunch of misfits. We pride ourselves on it. Well, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Even though it's not a big thing in China, like it's not a big thing in Japan either, really, not like it is back home. And regards to everybody in the dojo and your husband and your kids and all the people that I met exactly a year ago, isn't it? When I was bloody hell.
Thank you. It was awesome. Everyone misses you very much.
I don't know where the year's gone. It's frightening.
Thank you. Thank you again. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Thanks very much, Elizabeth.
Okay, take care, guys.